All right, we are covering the Geometry High School Unit 3 review, and we're starting with number 1. So we have this triangle here. I labeled the corners A, this point B, this point C, and this point D, just for reference. The first thing we can find is Z, which is the distance from A to D. And that's because we have this right triangle here. This is a right triangle, and we have this side is 5 and this side is 10. So we can use the Pythagorean Theorem, which says z squared is equal to 5 squared plus 10 squared. And that's z squared equals 25 plus 100, which means z squared equals 125. And we'll take the square root of both sides. So z is the square root of 125, which can be split into square root of 25 times the square root of 5. And then the square root of 25 is 5. And the square root of 5 is, that just remains. So z is 5 square root of 5. Now to find x, we have this small triangle here. We have another triangle here, this medium triangle, and then we have the big triangle. Well, 5 is this altitude right here, and it's also called the geometric mean. And what that means is that we can set up a ratio that says x over 5 equals 5 over 10. So we're going to, once again, x over 5 equals 5 over 10. And that's called the geometric mean property. So we work that out over here in the upper right corner. So x over 5 equals 5 over 10. When we cross multiply, we get 10 times x equals 5 times 5, or 25. And we can divide by 10 on both sides. So x is 25 over 10, which reduces to 5 over 2. So that's x. Then to get y, we now look at this right triangle here, this small triangle. We know x now. That's 5 over 2. This side is 5. And then y would be the hypotenuse. So we can use the Pythagorean Theorem, which says x squared plus 5 squared equals y squared. Plug in the 5 over 2 for the x. 5 over 2 squared is 25 over 4. And then you have this 5 squared is 25, which is 25 over 1. We are going to add these together, so we have to get a common denominator, which will be 4. So 25 over 1 will become 100 over 4. So now our common denominator is 4, which means we'll add the two top numbers. 25 plus 100 is 125. So y squared is 125 over 4. We'll take the square root now. So y is the square root of 125 over 4, which is the square root of 125 over 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. And then we break down the square root of 125 into square root of 25 times the square root of 5. And then square root of 25 is 5. And so we have 5 square root of 5 over 2 equals y. All right, here's number 2. It says write cosine of 67 in terms of its cofunction. Well, the cofunction is between sine and cosine. The cosine of an angle is equal to the sine of 90 degrees minus the original angle. So the cosine of 67 is equal to the sine of 90 minus 67, and 90 minus 67 is 23. So the answer is sine of 23 degrees. All right, number 3, we have this triangle here, and the word problem, it says a 5.8 foot fence is 12.052 feet away from a plant in the direction of the sun. It is observed that the shadow of the fence extends exactly to the bottom of the plant. And we see the drawing here. Find theta, which is this theta right here. Find the angle theta, which is the angle of elevation of the sun at that time. Round the measure of the angle to the nearest tenth of a degree. Okay, well, we're going to use Sohcahtoa here because we have a right triangle, and because we know this is going to be 90 degrees here in in this corner. So we have a right triangle, which means we can use Sohcahtoa. Now, Sohcahtoa says that sine is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse, or that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, or that tangent is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. I'm sorry, opposite over adjacent. So we need to change that. It's opposite over adjacent. And so what we have is theta is here, and then 5.8 would be the opposite side, and the adjacent side would be 12.052. So we have opposite and adjacent, so we're going to use tangent or toa. So we say the tangent of theta is 5.8 over 12.052. That's opposite over adjacent. And then to find theta, we use the inverse tangent. So that'll be the inverse tangent of 5.8 over 12.052. We put that in the calculator, and we get the angle of 25.7 degrees. And that's the answer. And number 4, we have this side of the hypotenuse of this right triangle is x, the bottom side is 6, and the side on the right is 3. It says find the value of x, and because this is a right triangle, we can use the Pythagorean Theorem, which says that 6 squared plus 3 squared is equal to x squared. 6 squared is 36, 3 squared is 9, 36 plus 9 is 45, which is equal to x squared. We'll take the square root of both sides. So x is the square root of 45, which can be split into square root of 9 times square root of 5. Square root of 9 is 3, and then the square root of 5 remains. So your answer is 3 square root of 5 for x.